Hello, my name is Filippa and welcome to my YouTube channel Filippa and Healing. Today I wanted to share an amazing experience with you. Many of you have heard my story about my birth injuries and especially the prolapse, which has been my major challenge and issue in my healing journey. And today I wanted to share a different part of my injury that affected me a lot. Vaginal gas or queefing or just wideness of the vagina. After I gave birth to my first son in 2016, everything went well. I mean, the birth itself was quite smooth. I had contractions, or not regularly, but like pre-contractions for about a week before it started to be more continuous and we could go into the hospital. When I had those contractions, I wasn't really able to sleep or rest because they came and I was so kind of anxious, or eager I think is a better word for me actually. I wasn't anxious for the birth, but I was really eager for it to happen because I was already 10 days overdue. So I was just waiting. It was really a really tough period, both my pregnancies. But then we came into the hospital, which was amazing, and they said, well, we have one room left. Here in Sweden it can be hard to get a room sometimes to give birth in, which is, I don't want to go into that, but so we came into the hospital and there was only one bathtub in the whole giving birth section. So the nurse, she offered me the bathtub and I said yes, and I stayed there for 8 hours, which was amazing. Although, things that I didn't know at that time I could say no to, they kind of pushed me to do. For example, getting out of the bathtub, which was not in my room, it was a separate room. So they took me out of the bathtub, made me walk in a corridor all the way to my room, and then made me lay down so they could check how open I was. And they did this once an hour for 8 hours, which, I felt so much pain in my body every time I did it. It was such an effort. I only wanted to be in the bathtub. And unfortunately at that time in Sweden, they couldn't allow anyone to give birth in water, even though that was the only thing I wanted. So my whole body was like, no, don't take me out from here. It was just, and it was going, progressively very nicely. And so otherwise, I was really lucky and fortunate to have like a smooth process in that way. And then finally, when the push phase came, they took me into the room and everything felt so wrong for me as soon as I came out of the water. And then I started to scream each time like a really big contraction came. And then I felt, ooh, this screaming is kind of out of control. Should I do this? Or I don't know, because I had been breathing so smoothly. I started to scream and I asked my midwife, is this right? This is what I wanted to say with, I was so tired. I was so exhausted. Not necessarily by the contractions I had at the hospital in the bath, but before, for a week, I hadn't slept properly. And he came to us 4 o'clock in the morning, so it was nighttime, and I was just exhausted. And I heard myself scream, and then, I asked the midwife, should I scream, or maybe I shouldn't, can I do anything else? And then she said it. She said, take a deep breath in when you feel a contraction coming. You hold your breath and you push your chin to your chest and you kind of feel everything pushing toward. So it wasn't really pushing, because I wanted it to be more like a natural progress for the uterus and everything in my pelvic floor. So I had not been doing anything in pushing myself. But when she said it, I just felt like, ooh, I shouldn't scream. I need to do this, because otherwise it will just be like, I will be all over the place. So I did it. And I could feel the pressure inside of me, and that it was not a good pressure. But I didn't have the energy to say no, or to stop it, or it's so hard to guide yourself to do something you've never done, even though, you know, so many women are so in tune with their bodies, and they know what's right for them. But you know, when an authority tells you something and they have so much more experience, you just trust them in a way. So that's what I did for 45 minutes. And in the end, they also encouraged me to push more. Not only that, I mean, they broke my water. They never asked me about that. I would have preferred if they didn't do that, but to make it go faster. Yeah, so I felt I didn't feel in charge on my birth, and it affected me a lot, mentally and physically, I think, or I know. So mentally it was really hard when it came to my chest, my baby, because it wasn't what I expected it to be. And it was beautiful. I loved him from the start, which many mothers are struggling with that only, so I'm really grateful. At the same time, it was like a part of me was gone. I was broken. And then the midwife said that this looks so good. Like, they took out the placenta, and after, when they were doing checking for any kind of injuries, they said this, wow, I mean, you're made for birthing, they told me, and you don't have anything here. We don't have to do anything. But I wasn't happy they told me that, which was interesting, because I should have been like, yeah, yes, I did it, and I was in tune with myself, and I wasn't. And it was just like this dark or gray thing on top of the whole experience for me in the end. And then I tried to stand up, and I couldn't stand up, and they told me to sit in a wheelchair, so I did. And they said, this is normal, this is fine, nothing to worry about. And then we went to our hotel room, and everything was, I was so happy he was here, but I wasn't completely, fully happy in my heart. So the days passed, and 4 days after, I think, I could stand up and walk again straight. And I couldn't pee after I gave birth either, which was a surprise for me. I had never heard about that. So they helped me empty my bladder. But I reflected a lot on that, and I think all of this, if it would have been on my conditions, I think the situation would have looked different. So I've been dealing a lot with that, process that in many, many ways. But still, I mean, it affects me a lot. So I'm gonna come to the point here, and after I think around 8 or 10 weeks, I started to do some exercise. On the 6-week checkup, the midwife said that everything is fine, everything looks good, you have to do your Kegels, that's it. So I went home, I thought great. I still didn't feel like myself. It took, I don't know if I did actually, until like now, which is many years later, when I have been on this healing journey. But I felt more like myself after maybe 2 years. And so after this birth, I started to exercise slowly. And since I'm a yoga teacher, I do many positions kind of upside down. It's always been a big part of my practice, and I love it. I love it. And I love to teach it, and you know, it's just such a big part. And as soon as I did that, so much air came inside my vagina. It felt horrible that the air came in. It was cold, it was a windy sensation, it was just, it was awful. And even more awful was it when the air came out, because you all know what happens. It's this big sound. And I was so scared for the first weeks. I still had the hope that, you know, this will get better. So that was a really big life quality limitation for me. And then one more thing was that I felt, you know, I didn't feel like before I gave birth, which is of course that I can understand that, you know, probably you won't. But anyway, I thought, you know, doing all these bandhas in yoga, like locks, root lock, and like when you activate, so it's like a Kegel, but you do it when you breathe and in a specific position. And I always had a good, nice contact with my root lock before I gave birth, and I hadn't after. And that I thought, you know, I thought I would have it, maybe in a different way, but still. I went back to check with midwives and doctors for a year. I think I met around 6 people. Everybody told me the same thing. You have to go home and do your Kegels and you will be fine. Everything looks fine. They didn't listen to me. They didn't listen to my story. I wasn't happy. I felt something was wrong, and I came back again and again. And that's a really sad part, you know, that women in general are not be taken seriously, unfortunately. So in a way, you know, and people were telling me, like, you have to go back, you have to ask, and you have to kind of fight for your rights. And I'm happy I did, because after 1 year I came to a doctor who could do an ultrasound, and she saw that some of my muscles were broken. And it was a huge relief, a huge sorrow at the same time. So she said to me, yes, you know, I understand you have these problems. You have a small prolapse, super small prolapse. And I had never heard of a prolapse, and that wasn't bothering me at the time. So I was like, okay, doesn't matter. How can I fix, you know, I just feel wide and I have all this air coming in. And she said, there's nothing we can do now. There is nothing we can do until you have given birth to all the kids you want to have, and then you can come back and we'll look at you and see what it looks like. And that pacified me completely. I went home and I didn't do anything else to try to understand what happened to me or how I could heal. Even though I'm a yoga teacher, I've always been doing alternative things. After a year of fighting with the system, I didn't have any more energy to do anything about it. So the years passed and I gave birth to our second son, and it was amazing. It was a home birth, you already know that. And I had a prolapse, and I started to work on natural healing. It took about a year, until I was having no symptoms at all for the prolapse. And that was, I think, around 6 months ago now. And I've continued, of course, to do all the methods, and even started to explore more. My aim is to heal completely. I know women can heal, so why wouldn't I do it? When I started to do hypopressives with Abby, my teacher, she told me that she had the same thing with the vaginal gas, and that it took her about 5 years of hypopressives training to make it not happen anymore. So she actually healed her vaginal gas problem. And that inspired me a lot, because I've never heard anyone else on my journey who had been talking about this. It's like all women who have prolapse or incontinence or hypertonic pelvic floor pain, something like that, they want to solve that problem. And it might be that vaginal gas is like a smaller problem, or maybe not even a problem for many women. But it might be a problem, you know, when you have sex or when you do any kind of exercise or yoga. It's not flattering to have that kind of sound. It just takes the edge of anything you're doing. So I think I want to take it to the next level. I want women to heal even like the small problems after giving birth. So when I heard Abby was talking about this, I was so happy. I was like, yes, hypopressives for the long run. And after like 8 months of hypopressives, I started to have days where no air was coming in. It's been very like one day I had no air, and then like 60 days after, or like 2 months, no air for one day. And then so it's been such a slow process. Or I mean, maybe not, I'm just very eager to heal it. But yeah, that's but the big thing here is that after I gave birth to my first son, I had no days where no air was coming in. So that gave me so much hope. Like, I can be better even though I've had a prolapse and I've given birth twice now. You know, I can still heal this, I know it. And those few days where no air was coming in was really, really motivating. So I have continued, of course, to do hypopressives. I've been going to an acupuncturist who also helped me a lot. And after I go to her, I don't have any air coming in. So this is just a really nice sign that, you know, it can work. But I have been really struggling with, you know, what's the next step for vaginal gas problem, because it's a lot harder actually to find information about compared to prolapse in my experience. So one day in the fall, when I still had like not a symptomatic prolapse, but I could feel heaviness. No bulging, but heaviness. The last day I had was in the fall, and I felt so depressed by that. I was super low, almost lower than ever, because, you know, I really wanted it to be over. I wanted to stay in those days where I felt strong and connected and so much better in my prolapse. But the good thing for me when I have those downs days, like the really depressed days, is that I take action. I realize, okay, I need to step up for my body, for myself, and I need to find another method. I need to find something new, another woman who's done something, who can inspire me, and I'll go, take that route. So I booked a time with a naturopath. I had a call with her like a month ago, and she told me many things, and I will share all the things. I'm still in the process myself now, so I want to really try them all and see the effects and share all the information with you. So what I'm going to tell you now is about suppositories. She told me to make my own suppositories of essential oils and put them both anally and vaginally. And I don't know why, but I didn't have my expectations high on this one, even though I had been curious on suppositories because I've read about them for other reasons than prolapse and like birth injuries. So I was happy she told me I could do that, but for some reason I didn't expect anything from it. And I've been taking them for a week now. This was a 2-week program, morning and evening. And for this week, no air has come inside. It's amazing. And I feel closed. Like I feel connected. Not closed in a tense way or like in a bad way, just not wide and open and swollen and as if things are gonna fall out. I feel almost like before I gave birth. I don't dare to say it because and I think I mentioned now hypopressives, acupuncture, and these suppositories, which I will give you more details on it when I know more about it. So I need to do some more research, but I'll share everything. I'm super transparent here. I just want you to heal too, if you have any problem or issue. So, it's like maybe I can actually do yoga again, the kind of yoga that I used to do. I had kind of written that off. Like 4 years ago, I never thought that I was going to do certain positions again. But now I feel like, what if I actually can do it again and I can teach like I used to? It's amazing. It's like, and of course, healing naturally. Of course, it's going to be days now when air comes in again. But this hasn't happened before, that for 1 whole week, it's been feeling not like a war zone down there. I felt harmony and connection. So I hope that I can give you some hope if that's what you need. And as I've told you, I'll share more. But the thing that is really important here, I shared 3 of the methods I've been doing in my healing journey. I share more on this channel. So I really think, I don't think those 3 things made this happen, that no air came inside. I think it's all the things that I've done. And I've tried maybe 30 different methods and worked a lot with like processing emotions. That's a method in a way. But I've worked so hard on healing. So it's not like, oh, you just take these suppositories and you'll be fine. It's not a quick fix. It's not. And it's a combination of all the things you're doing and the mindset. So, it's not like going to a doctor and get a pill or get a surgery and you'll be done. That's not what I'm talking about here or want to share on this channel. I mean, if a surgery is for you, that's fine, but for me, I'm exploring this other way of natural healing and getting to know yourself better. That's what it is. The body's needs and your needs, and being kind to yourself. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.